it's like, it's still a little dirty out. Like today, I was like, well, no.
All right.
So just get rid of that.
Okay, we'll go over later.
Sounds good, buddy. You just let me know.
I'm on.
Good word.
Just let us know when you're ready.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Full time. All right. So today we're going to talk about the buyer consultation. I'm going to show you exactly what I do, how I work through the forms. I'll give you the scripts I utilize, and all that fun stuff. And this is a culmination of stuff that I learned in Bold, how to systematize it, and then it's something that we've mastered over time. This is a process that in the course of 2 to 3 years really just became the strength of my personal business. So if you want to talk about buyers consultations and turning and burning buyers and working them, you're talking to a guy who that's my specialty, right? So we're going to go through exactly what we did. But before we dive into the actual consultation, I'm going to share with you the things I say to actually get people to agree to a consultation. Because this isn't just people that are referred to me that are a warm lead. I'm talking about phone calls or interactions with complete strangers and getting them to commit to coming into a buyer consultation. And then at that consultation, getting them to sign on to buyer rep agreements and kind of hitting the ground running from there. So that being said, this is what the phone call conversation sounds like. Either they ping on a website or somehow I get in touch with them, or even this is the same script I would utilize at an open house with some obvious subtle modifications. So with that being said, let's dive into it. I'm going to call Jacob. Let's say I got his phone number either from a website registration or whatever. I'm going to call him and I'm going to lead it to a script to book a consultation. So Jacob, I'm going to call you and I want you to roll with me. Are you ready? All right, so ring, ring.
Hello?
Hello, is this Jacob?
Yeah.
Hey Jacob, this is Zach. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for asking. Say, the reason I'm calling is to thank you for registering on our website to take a look at homes.
Long time, sorry.
That's okay. The reason I'm calling you today is to thank you for registering on our website to take a look at homes. And sometimes I'll pause to see if he responds. If he doesn't, I'm just going to go right into. So tell me, what is it that you're looking for in a home?
I'm looking for a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-stall garage.
Okay. Awesome. And Jacob, what areas are you looking in? Like what cities?
The Rochester area.
Okay. And do you have a price point in mind already?
I want to stay below 200.
Okay, gotcha. And then is there any particular timeline that you're looking for in terms of being in your next home?
I want to be in by June.
Okay, awesome. Well, Jacob, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to offer you a chance to have a consultation, no obligation. I'd come into the office, I'll visit with you for a little bit, answer any questions you might have about the process, kind of talk to you about the market, and really help you come up with a game plan that will allow you to be successful. Would that be helpful for you?
I don't know about right now.
Okay, sounds good. So Jacob, you said you want to be in a home in June, right?
Correct.
Right, so part of the consultation is helping you realize that the process for you to be in a home by June actually starts right now. So if that's something that you're really serious about, I'd love to have you come to the office and just learn a little bit about what it's going to take to have you in that home by June. How's that sound?
Okay.
Okay, so that was good. You threw me one curveball and I had to adjust. But is that a true statement? Like if he tells me he wants to be in a home by June, we're kind of already at the no BS moment right now for him, right?
Yeah.
So I'll usually, Nick, I'll get to you in 1 second. I will usually go back and forth with them once, maybe twice. If at that point they're still him and Han, I'm not going to waste my time on it. I'm say, okay, great. Here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to stay in touch. I'm going to send your properties. If any catch your eye, let me know. I'd be happy to get in touch with you about it, right? Because what I found is the way that I ask that question and how I end that question is critical, and you can really apply it to just about any interaction with a client or potential client. Was, Jacob, I'm going to do all this, this, and this for you. Would that be helpful? Because honestly, what's really the only way to answer that question for most people, especially if they're motivated? Yeah. What are they going to say? No, that wouldn't be helpful. They could say maybe kind of what he does. Well, no, maybe just not right now, not right this second. In which case I said, well, here's a deal. Realistically, with your timeline, you probably need to do this sooner rather than later. Then I'll let him decide whether or not he wants to buy it or not. But that's the same script I use every time. Here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to offer you a free, no hassle, no obligation consultation. I'll answer any questions you have about the process, educate you about the market a little bit, and help you come up with a game plan that will allow you to be successful. Would that be helpful for you? That works with buyers, it works with sellers, it works with anybody, right? And what do people want more than anything, especially if they're kind of just thinking about starting this process? Knowledge. challenged. They want a chance to ask questions and learn about, okay, what are my next steps and what do I have to do? I had a conversation with a guy this morning about some financing stuff. And I said, here's the deal, dude. Honestly, all I want to know is if I kick you over some information after we have this conversation, I just want to see if it's realistic or not. Right? That's all I'm looking to do. I want to get your expert opinion on whether or not something is even doable. Right? So that's kind of what you're offering. Hey, here's the deal. Come on in, kick the tires a little bit. Let's even see if there's something that's feasible for you. Nick.
So, I was taking notes, sorry.
Okay.
So the just looking, so if you did the phone call, I said, just kind of looking around, that's why I registered.
Great, so let's do that a little bit, because now what I'm gonna do, in my mind, is I'm trying to prioritize you as a buyer. I'm trying to see, is this a tire kicker, is this person serious, or are they motivated? Because if I can tell you're motivated, what do you think obviously, in my mind, happens? If I can tell they're motivated, you become a priority. Right, you become a priority, I categorize you as a priority, you're gonna get much more detailed, consistent follow-up than somebody I can tell. Honestly, you wanna know, I saw a lead came into our team yesterday, and this is what it said. My daughter might be getting a settlement due to her accident. We're looking at places to potentially buy.
Yes.
What do you think that really is? Like it could be true, it very well could be true, but honestly, what do you think that is? It's a BS crap lead. Why? What's that?
Why do you think that?
Because in my experience, what you'll find is you'll get all kinds of creative leads that have all these things. Oh yeah, we're coming into some cash soon, which really means we can't get pre-approved. We're just looking for somebody to show us some homes. I'm not saying that to be mean. That's based on my experience. That's what that is, right? So I'll have a conversation I will have a conversation, but the team will have a conversation, and what they should do is push that person to get pre-approved nicely and professionally. And if they hem and haw about getting pre-approved, what do you think that tells me?
They already know it.
Yeah, it is probably BS, right? So anyway, Nick, let's have that conversation. So part of my timeline question would uncover this before I make my offer for a consultation. So let's backtrack. So Nick, so tell me, what kind of timeline do you have in mind to be in your next property?
I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of looking around.
Okay, so let me ask you another way, Nick. If all the stars aligned perfectly, when would you like to be in your next home?
Probably before the snow hits.
Before the snow hits? Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yes.
That's
Again.
if it ever stops, right? So have a little bit of
Missed
fun.
it.
Yeah. Okay, Nick, that's awesome. Well, here's what I'd like to do. And in my experience, a lot of people, when they look at their timeline to be in a home, sometimes it changes over time. Sometimes it gets bumped up. Sometimes it gets bumped back. What I'd like to do is offer you a free, no hassle, no obligation consultation, a chance to come into the office, meet me, see that I'm a real person, answer any questions for you, and help you come up with a plan, even if it's a little bit further down the road, that will allow you to be successful. Would that be helpful for you?
Sure.
I'm still going to give the same offer, and I do that all the time. People will tell us we're 6 months out, we're 12 months out. We will still meet with you. We've got some people that we met with them, and now we actually sent them a new buyer contract to sign because it's expired, and we signed it for a year because it's just been that long, right? But it's good. We just re-up the contract with them, and we keep them as a client because for whatever reason they're just taking a little bit longer. Anything else, Nick?
No, you kind of answered my next question, which is, what do you typically say is the lead time to buy a house? Like, do you say, oh,
sure,
oh, that's a perfect time to start now, or let's talk in a month, or do you ever say?
Great question. So let me touch on that right now. I say let's meet now.
Sure. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, because in my professional experience, that is true. Most people, raise your hand if you've ever had a client say, I want to buy 6 months from now, and then 3 months later they're closing on a home. That happens all the time, right? So if you're thinking about it, let me get you into the office. Let's talk. Let's establish a relationship, because I know more often people bump up than they do push back the timeline. So I want to meet with you now. And the way I look at it is this: as far as our business, we are a consultative business. We're here to help people do consultations with them. And I want to do a consultation with as many people as possible. It's at the office. It takes me maybe 30 to 45 minutes. I'm more than happy to meet with somebody for 30 to 45 minutes at my office if they have the possibility of being business. Well, some people might say, well, no, I wouldn't even meet with them if they're not pre-approved, because you might not, don't know if they're a waste of your time or yet. Well, I want to get them in, educate them. Even if they're not pre-approved yet, I'll push them in the direction of getting pre-approved after that consultation. But even if they don't do business with me then, or period, in that consultation, I also start hitting them up for referrals and start a referral relationship as well. So I'll talk about that next. Anything else? That's the script I utilize. So let me do another variation. I'm gonna call Aaron this time. Ring, ring. Hey, is this Aaron?
This is speaking.
Hey, Aaron, this is Zach. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing what? You don't sound like you're doing okay, but
I'm not a real estate agent. I got 3 calls of you.
well, here's the deal. Actually, our mutual friend Lori put me in touch. She said to give you a call because I guess you guys were chatting.
Okay, yeah.
She said you're looking at maybe buying a place. Is that right?
I am thinking about it, yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna ask them the same exact questions and use the same exact script to set the appointment. No change. No change. Here's what I used to do. Hey, Aaron, Lori, we got a mutual friend. She said that you're looking at buying a place. So just let me know what kind of properties you're looking at. We can start go seeing properties as early as tomorrow. And I said, I would skip what? Yeah, with the consultation period,
Yeah.
which means maybe I didn't go into the pre-approval process, right? And just shot me in the foot. So even if they're a warm lead or referral, booking for a consultation. And it's the same exact conversation. Okay, so now when they're in the office, they come in, they meet the gal at the front desk, it would be Nikki in this case, obviously. We give our front desk gal a sign-in sheet, kind of like what you get at a doctor's office or a dentist's office, whatever. She hands it to them. She knows that they're on their way because we give her heads up. They start filling out their client contact information, things, their address, all that fun stuff, because we send them a thank you right after we're done meeting with them. And then they come and let us know when they're ready for the consultation, right? We've got a room booked and all that jazz. They come in, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. This is already pumped up on the screen. And I say, yep, so the purpose of today is just to have a little bit of a consultation, a chance for you to ask questions and really come up with a game plan. Our focus is purely education. Questions are welcome at any time. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm not here to convince you to buy a home. That's only something that you can decide that you want to do. But what I can do is talk to you about the market and all the other things that are included in the process of buying a home so that you can make the best decision for you. Yes, ma'am.
Real quick, the people that are watching this
Mhm.
live are saying they're having trouble seeing it. They're seeing the bright light on the screen.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can, do our lights dim at all anymore?
I don't know if they ever did. That would have been nice. Let me see if I can do something called screen share, which will allow the slides just to pop up. Who is it that's messaging you?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, ask her if she can see now. Okay, so at this point in time, I've basically asked them, you know, what is it? I've informed them this is purely educational. So when I say something like that at the very beginning, what do you think kind of happens to the consumer or the potential client at that point? Hey, this is purely educational. Okay, thank you for telling me that, Debbie.
Yes, you're welcome.
Say again?
They're relaxed.
They're relaxed. It takes a lot of pressure off the entire situation. I've just given them permission to just kind of sit back, ask questions, and just learn about the market. I'm not here to pressure you to do anything. And the other script I'll utilize at this point that's a referral script is I'll say this. Here's the deal, Tamara. You know, what's more important to me than you even buying a home is the relationship that we develop throughout the process. Because even if you decide not to buy one right now because it's not a good time for you, what I'd like you to do is still refer me to friends and family if they need them, right? So it's a little bit of a variation of, you know, let me take a little bit of pressure off your decision. Oh, by the way, here's why. What's more important to me is the relationship, because I want you to view me as that real estate professional and expert. So when you come across friends and family that need the help of a real estate professional, yeah, obviously put them in touch with me.
So you tell them that like straight up? Like
One of the very first things I say to them, Jacob, it's on this slide. We're only 2 slides into this thing. The first one was an introduction slide, right? The other script I use, I'll get to in a minute, it's a second referral script that we utilize. It's a little bit of an embedded one. So then I say, so the whole buying process is basically broken down into 5 different phases. There's pre-approval, home search, offer negotiations, whether or not your offer is accepted or declined, and then the closing phase. So what we're going to do is talk about each of those phases in general, kind of help you come up with a game plan. The first phase, notice I'm saying the first phase, the first thing that you do is getting a pre-approval. And here's what I'll ask them, have you already been pre-approved? So Brad, let's role play a little bit. Let's say that you've already been pre-approved. So Brad, have you already gone through the pre-approval process?
I have.
Awesome, and who's your lender?
Think bank.
Okay, well here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. So after our meeting, I'm gonna send you some emails. If you could email me the contact information for your lender, that would be awesome. It's important that I start a great working relationship with them from day one.
Sounds good.
So what did I just do right there a little bit in a kind of a nice way? Yeah, I just told Brad, if you just made that up, we're gonna be in trouble, right? Because I'm asking for their information, and he's probably being very honest with me, right? But I'm also setting the team up for success because now we know who you're working with, and immediately we're gonna reach out to him and say, hey, we've got a mutual client in Brad. We're starting the process, just wanted to touch base with you and kind of figure out how it is you work, and start asking questions about pre-approval letters and stuff like that. What else does that potentially do? Because if a lender's working with a client, what do lenders sometimes do with their clients? Put them in touch with agents, right? So what I'm also nicely doing is saying, hey, Brad's lender, Brad's already hired an agent, it's me, so that's done. You can direct all communication to me, because I'm gonna CC Brad on the email as well, right? So that prevents that from happening as well. Have you ever had that happen to you, where a lender all of a sudden said, oh, no, I've got somebody you should work with, which is fine. We do the same thing, right? But when you do that and you're proactive about it, you can eliminate that right off the get-go. Okay, so if Brad's not pre-approved, I say, okay, great, Brad, the next step after this consultation is gonna be getting you pre-approved so you know exactly what kind of budget it is you're working with. Do you have any lenders in mind?
Not right now.
Okay, awesome. Is it okay if I send you maybe 2 or 3 recommendations for lenders that can help you through the pre-approval process?
Sure.
Awesome. So after our consultation today, I'm going to send you an email with a few different lenders. And here's what I recommend. Reach out to all of them. Let them know that you're pricing out with a few different lenders, because that tends to get you the best deal when you let them know that you're doing that. You pick whichever one you're most comfortable with.
Sounds good.
Already providing value. I'm going to point you in the right direction and put you in touch with some lenders, right? So Brad, now when I asked you if you already have a lender, I want you to tell me yes and that it's Quicken Loans. So Brad, are you already pre-approved with a lender?
I am. It's Quicken Loans.
Okay, awesome. Well, here's what I'd like to do. Have you shopped around at all? Have you talked to any other lenders to see and compare rates at all?
No, I haven't thought of that.
Okay, well, great. What I'd like to do, Brad, is put you in touch with maybe a few others. Talk to all of them, price them all out, see which one you think is going to do the best job for you. In my experience, sometimes our lenders that are here locally are a little bit easier to work with, just from a communication standpoint. We can get a hold of them, get things solved a lot faster, and they might even be a little bit more competitive. So I would just recommend you talk to a few more. Okay, so demonstrating value, and then selfishly, what am I doing?
Getting a local lender.
Potentially, right? I'm at least giving them a shot, because I know I've had good experiences with Quicken Loans, and I've had terrible experiences with Quicken Loans. It's not just Quicken Loans, it's a few others. I've had good and bad experiences with Wells Fargo, right? So I might just recommend, based on if they tell me that they have a shiesty lender potentially, that they maybe talk to somebody else. Yes, ma'am.
I had a local lender, well, I didn't, my buyer did, and he ended up going with a lender from Costco.
Okay, yeah, you told me about this. You
And
did a great job.
It was fantastic. It really was.
Cool.
And he got a rate that Amanda couldn't believe it closing. She couldn't believe any of the stuff. And they did charge him a full 1%.
Cool. And
Do you have a lender here?
They're not here, but they called him from California.
And you got a free bulk order of paper towels at closing. Yes, ma'am.
Whole pallet.
Yeah.
Question about the mortgage stuff.
Yeah.
Do we work with Keller Mortgage?
You can. You certainly can. So Keller Mortgage exists. I'm getting more and more questions about this. They're kind of similar to the way in which Wells Fargo is structured. If you've ever worked with a client that uses Wells Fargo, where do you get phone calls from? What part of the country? Arizona.
Oh.
That's kind of where their hub is, right?
Okay.
So Keller Mortgage has a hub. It's in the Midwest somewhere. They do have somebody licensed in Minnesota. So if they want to utilize them, they certainly can.
It's a pretty good deal for our clients.
It seems to be,
correctly.
yeah. I have not used them personally, and it's going to be interesting, in full disclosure, to see how that plays out over time, because you have a lot of market centers that have relationships with lending companies. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes potentially. So I just explained to them, most people know what getting pre-approved is, right? But I explained to them what it is, why it's valuable, and can somebody tell me the difference, besides Megan, between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval? Because the consumer has no idea. The consumer thinks they're the same things. They will use them interchangeably, like they're talking about the same thing.
Qualification is start shopping, pre-approvals.
Yeah, qualification, let me sum it up for you. Qualification is crap, right? Pre-qual is meaningless. I'm being somewhat facetious, but I'm also being pretty truthful. A pre-qual is, depending on the institution, somebody went online, they typed in some stuff, they said, I make this, these are my debts, I think I have a good credit score, and a system automatically generated a pre-qualification for them. Which means what? Nothing went, there was no.
They still have to get pre-approved.
Personal
Absolutely. It's what the piece of paper that you're giving me isn't really worth anything, in my humble opinion. Because nobody's verified your income, nobody's checked your taxes, nobody's actually pulled your credit report. And until those things.
Credit's usually pulled, but all the rest of it is not.
Right.
And it's amazing how many people, and they're being totally honest,
Yeah.
have no idea how much money they make.
Right.
They're
Or,
like, I
or
make
what their
this much
debts are.
money, and they're like, they honestly, they don't know. And they didn't know that counts as a debt, they didn't know this
Right.
counts, yeah.
So that's why I say it's useless.
Right.
Or people are like, yeah, I make 50 grand a year. Well, that's great that you do that, but is that before or after tax?
Yeah.
Because that's a big difference, right? So you have to let them know, hey, that's because people will come to you with a pre-qual and they just don't understand why you're telling them to go get pre-approved. Right? Well, here's why. And oh, by the way, if you're making offers and you submit a pre-qualification letter and there's 10 other offers on the table, you're not even going to be considered. So you're helping them understand. So I take a brief amount of time to talk about different types of financing. I do this for a couple of reasons. Number two, I want them to know that I'm knowledgeable and I understand the different types of financing and what they're likely going to be using. And I also use this as a place to establish the expectation that their lender is going to be the go-to subject matter expert for lending questions, not me, right? Don't make me the middleman. If you guys want a copy of this, just let me know. I will send you a copy of this consultation. Just got to email me or go to email Kelly at clientcare@teamluckyduck.com. She'll give you an unbranded version. So I explained to them, there are two main types of financing that are utilized: conventional loans, FHA loans. I go into a little bit more detail about the different pluses and minuses about each of them, down payment versus interest rates versus PMI and stuff like that, just to help demonstrate that I have that base knowledge. Some people already know this or just nodding. Some people, you can just tell you're changing the world by just giving them a little bit of information. I'm fine with both, right? But what I'll say is, at the end of the day, what you should do is talk to the lenders I send you, submit all of your information, and then ask them, based on their expertise, which loan product they think is going to be the best fit or the best match for you. Right? I'm already kind of setting the stage for, I know enough to be dangerous, but they're going to be the subject matter expert that all of your lending questions should go to. Because raise your hand if you've had clients in every lending question they have, they call you and ask you. Right? It's just, it's like, guys, like I know, but I shouldn't be the one answering the question. Or honestly, I don't ask me what your monthly payment's going to be, because I have no idea. I can guess, but that should be a question that you ask your lender. And I had this realization one time when I was doing a transaction for these lovely clients that are friends of mine. They're great people, Tron and Dee Buford. And Tron kept emailing me, Zach, what would my monthly payment be in this situation? Zach, what would it be in this situation? What would it be in this situation? And I kept saying, okay, well, I would go to the lender and ask them to do this. And they would tell me, then I would tell him. And they would ask me again. I'm like, what am I doing? Tron, call your lender and ask all these questions of your lender. And once you guys figure things out, just let me know. Like, why am I doing this in the middle of the day right now on a Saturday? So help them realize that that's going to be their go-to person, and also help them realize, what their down payments and stuff like that are going to be. And sometimes I tell folks, and here's the deal: you might talk with a lender and realize that, in a month or two is not necessarily doable for you. That's fine. We'll put you on a plan. If home ownership is truly something you desire, we'll put you on a plan to get you there in a few months. Right? This is part of that game plan I promised them. Right? There's a gal right now that Carly's working with who wants to buy a house in Faribault. And we took her through the pre-approval process and realized, hey, we need a few months yet to get her to the point where she's ready to buy. Awesome. That's a plan in place. She's in the tracker with that note right next to her. She gets checked in with regularly because we know that's what she's working on. And until she gets there, that's where she's going to stay. And then once she's good to go, boom, she's going to transition right back into the normal mix of things. But in the meantime, she's got a game plan. She knows what's going on. We've established a relationship, and we have her under contract. And she's getting checked in with regularly. I'll ask them, hey, are you a veteran? Or by any chance, if they are, great. I'll talk a little bit about the VA home loan. If not, I just say, okay, that doesn't apply, and I just skip right past them. Not a big deal. Okay, this is one that I touch on because I was at a closing once with a single mom, lovely lady, and they were going over the closing disclosure, and I could tell she was not expecting the total monthly payment that she ended up with at the time of closing. And I thought to myself, well, that's just not right. Because what her lender had been quoting her is what her mortgage payment would be. Not taxes and insurance.
That's low.
Yeah, it is. Well, but yes and no. I mean, Megan, I think you'd probably agree that most lenders would know to do that, right? But I think sometimes too, and I'm guilty of this, when you're in real estate and in the real estate world, we're just swimming in it every day. Sometimes we forget or take for granted what the consumer does not know as common knowledge, right? So if I'm giving the lender the benefit of the doubt, when someone's asking what will my payment be, well, the lender might think to themselves, well, people know that I'm quoting them what their payment will be, and then obviously taxes and insurance will have to be added in.
I don't even know how you could do that because there's so many places where you got to sign. And it's
Right.
pointed out, this will be your total monthly payment. So
Absolutely, and keep in mind, this
I
was
mean,
a
they
few-
had to be like, just,
this was a few years ago before even now more diligent about disclosures. But if you think about it, if you're just talking over the phone, okay, well, what would my payment be? Well, in that case, your payment will be $1,200. Okay, great, let's do it. And then you get to closing, it's like, okay, by the time we factor in all this other stuff, you're looking at $1,500. And she didn't specifically say it, but I could just tell by the look on her face that it was more than what she was anticipating. So I thought to myself, if some lenders are missing this educational piece, I'm going to cover it just to be safe. What I do is I arm my clients with questions to go ask lenders. Here's what you need to ask your lender. Ask your lender this. Ask your lender this question. See what their take is on this. Right? Again, it's demonstrating value, and I'm overcoming stuff that would maybe otherwise get. Oh, do you want a story? So Carly had a closing scheduled last Thursday that's not going to close this Thursday because our buyer quit his job and took a new one.
Happens a lot.
Right.
unbelievable.
And he's an Army buddy of mine.
They get everything done and
Right.
they're like, I'm good to go. And
Right.
they quit their job.
Well, or the consumer thinks, well, I'm taking a new job that pays me more, so why would it be an issue? So I'm going to see him next weekend at Army stuff. He's going to do push-ups. No, I'm just kidding. But your first reaction is like, what are they thinking? My first reaction is, I'm calling the lender and saying, did you have a discussion with our client about not doing this? Because if you miss this, that's kind of the big deal. Obviously, I was really nice about it. It's a new construction home, so I knew we'd probably just delay closing a week or so. We'd be okay. Nobody's in a huge hurt situation here. But Megan, when you were doing loan applications, what were like the two main things you would tell people not to do?
Don't quit your job and don't create any more debt.
Yeah, and the biggest purchase is what? Car. Don't buy a car. Do not go buy a car right now.
Credit cards.
Wait till after you
Don't
close.
buy your furniture.
Don't buy your furniture.
Don't buy your
Yeah,
furniture.
Don't finance your furniture.
Right. So that's why if a lender's missing that, or I try to safeguard and get some of that, I'll tell people, hey, here are some common things that can be hiccups in a transaction. Don't do them. Don't do them. That was one of them. And I didn't, as much as I wanted to get fired up with the lender, because I'm the one on the team that gets to have those conversations. That's my specialty nowadays. As much as I wanted to, I just thought, she called, she's trying to find solutions. It's not going to hurt anything at this point in time. Let's just get it closed, but it's something I'm going to remember. So now I explained to him, hey, your mortgage payment actually gets broken down to a few different things. Number one, is there going to be any PMI? Okay, what type of loan are we talking about if PMI exists? An FHA loan, right?
Any loan where you didn't put down 20%.
Any loan, FHA primarily, any loan where you didn't put down 20%, but now there's a big difference with PMI and FHA loans that didn't used to be the case a few years ago, which is what? Regarding PMI.
Stays with the life.
Stays, no matter if you hit that 20% equity threshold or not, PMI stays with the life of loan for good. You can always refinance and change to something else, but PMI is always going to be there versus conventional, right? If you hit that 20% threshold, whether it's an initial down payment or you get to it over the life of the loan, that can be removed. But they have to understand that PMI is something that may or may not exist depending upon how much they put down, what type of loan they utilize. I tell them the property taxes get factored in. Every month when you pay your mortgage payment, if it's an escrow account type payment, 1/12 of your property taxes is being paid each month or set aside in that account each month to pay your property taxes. Homeowners insurance is the same thing. Also, there might be miscellaneous fees that get rolled into the financing, and your payments will be divided among your principal and interest over the course of the term of the loan. That's about as detailed as I get. I just want them, so the so what at the end of this slide is I tell them, so when you're asking your lender what your monthly payments will be, what those projections are, you need to ask them, does that include my property tax and homeowners insurance? Or at least an estimate of your property taxes and homeowners insurance? Because that's a true representation of what their monthly payments are likely going to be. Not just what the payment's going to be on the loan, but what's the total payment if you include those with it. Just trying to save myself some heartache in the future. Okay, I tell them this because, you know, when you work with a lot of first-time home buyers, what kind of situation are they coming from?
They just lost the feed.
What's that?
They just lost the feed on the streaming.
Okay. I will take a quick look, but otherwise, it's being recorded. I might just have to watch it later. You really threw me through a loop there, Debbie. I'm like, what did I do? I lost what? This still looks good on my end, so it might be a little bit of user error on
Loser.
very clear. User error. Tell her to maybe reboot and try to hop back up. A lot of first-time home buyers, or some buyers in general, they're coming from what kind of a situation? Yeah, they're renting. They're usually renting, or they're maybe still with mom and dad or whatnot. So a lot of this other stuff, they have no idea what they might have an idea of. Okay, I know these things exist, but they don't know what it means real dollars-wise and what they should be budgeting for, right? So additional expenses to keep in mind when you're buying a home: general upkeep, repairs. You know, as we're looking at homes, is going to need some additional repairs. Initially, repainting, you want to rekey the property. That's usually a couple $100 or more. Any initial remodeling or decorating. Utilities, cable, phone, because when you're paying rent sometimes, are these not included in the rent? Sometimes, right? So if that's what you're used to, and you just kind of think that's how life is, no, you're in for a rude awakening when you have your mortgage payment, property taxes, homeowner insurance, and utility, and cable if you still do cable these days, and phone if you still have a home phone these days. You're probably going to do internet, right? Plus garbage and all the other fun stuff. Here's where I talk about furniture. I say more often than not, you know, no furniture is going to be included when you purchase the home. If there's some items that you like, let us know. We can have a conversation offline with the seller about that. And oh, by the way, don't go out and finance any furniture in the meantime. Wait till after you close. And then I talk about appliances. Almost all the appliances you see in the home are included. We'll specify that in the purchase agreement. About 20% of the time, the sellers do take the washer and dryer with them. We'll always ask for them, but just know that it's not always guaranteed that those are going to stay behind with the property, right? Notice these are all things I'm talking about because they've caused me pain in a prior transaction, so I'm just heading it off now. By the way, you're also going to want a budget to buy things like a lawnmower or a snow blower, especially if you live here in Minnesota, because you're going to have to start doing the upkeep of your yard and stuff like that as well, unless you're buying a townhome, which that's included, right? So I'm just getting a full picture of what they can expect and what's going to be coming down the pipeline for them, right? Because what I don't want to have is somebody do a real estate transaction with me and then at the end of the day have a poor experience because they feel like they got stretched well outside of their financial comfort zone, because that's all they're going to remember. You know, that gal at that closing, you know, likely all she remembers is being in that closing room and having that sinking feeling, realizing, oh my God, this monthly payment is a few $100s more than I was going to do. What am I going to do? And who was sitting next to her when that happened? I was. And, you know, she didn't blame me, but regardless, I'm tied to that
in front of
transaction.
you.
Yeah, not in front of me. She did send me death letters in the mail afterwards. Just kidding. But yeah, you know, I don't ever want that to be the situation again. So I'm super upfront about it so that people know what they're getting into. And it's just the right thing to do professionally. So I always kind of joke with them. I say, okay, now this is the part of the consultation where I stop talking, I shut up, and you get to do a lot of the talking. So now we're going to discuss what it is you're looking for in a home. And I cover these things. As an agent, the first few things I want to know right off the bat is what areas are you looking at? What cities? What cities are you looking at, right? Or I might say on the phone you shared with me you're looking at Rochester. Are there any other areas that you're considering? Are we talking single family, condos, townhomes? I'm going to want to know that. Style. You know, most people say, well, we really don't care. Or they'll say, hey, we want on one level, right? Those are kind of the two discussions you have there. Are there a number of bedrooms, bathrooms that you need, number of garage stalls, all that fun stuff? I'm getting an idea what the search criteria is for my online search stuff, right? And then I'll say, okay, great. You know, here's what's going to happen once we have that conversation. And on the back of my sign-in sheet, it's a whole area for me to take notes about what they're looking for at home, right? So I can capture all of it. And so then I can turn it in. And now when Carly turns it in, Kelly automatically populates the auto search for them, right? So I'll say, great, now that we have all this information, here's what's going to happen next. You're going to go through the pre-approval process. We'll find out what that budget is. Then we're going to take that budget and your search criteria, and we're going to start finding every option out there that matches your criteria. Then you let us know which ones catch your interest that you'd like to go take a peek at. And at that point, we'll be up and running. We'll start taking a peek inside homes, going on showings, right? So I set a couple of conditions there. What was the biggest condition I set right there before we'll do any showings? It's kind of a big one. I used a B word. Goes hand in hand with pre-approval. Find out what your budget is. Let's find out, because I'll add, if they're not pre-approved, if you're not pre-approved yet and I ask you what's your budget, somebody tells me, I'm thinking to myself, well, how the hell do you even know? That's what your budget is. Is that your wishful thinking budget? And that's why I explained to them, you know, hey, the important thing about getting you pre-approval is to know what your budget is, because that directly impacts your home search, right? If they come back and tell you you're pre-approved at 500, that's awesome. Your next question is, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, what purchase price do I need to be at or below to stay within my financial comfort zone? Meaning what is in line with the monthly payment that you're comfortable with, right? Because even though you're pre-approved at 500,000, that doesn't necessarily mean you're comfortable with that kind of monthly payment, right? And we need to know that. If your monthly payment comfort zone has you more in line with a $400,000 property, we need to know, because that's where we're going to cap your search. We're not going to cap it at 5 if you don't want to spend that much. We're going to cap it at 4. Does that make sense? So that's part of the conversation we're having right now. Okay. And this is also my chance to find out whether or not they're realistic, right? Because if Aaron, if he tells me, here's the deal, Zach, I want to buy a single family home in Rochester for $125. I'm going to say, okay, are you paying all cash? Because if something's selling single family at $125 in Rochester, it's probably falling over, doesn't have a roof. So no one's going to finance it, right? Just have a little fun right now. But if he says, you know, Zach, I want to buy a single family 125, we say, okay, well, Aaron, at that price point in Rochester, you're probably going to be hard pressed to find a town, let alone single family. So what we might need to do is think further out. You know, is Casson an option for you? Are there other areas just outside of Rochester that you would still consider? Because you know, based on what's going on in the market right now, you're probably not going to find something like that in Rochester. Now, I used to, or we can go to Albert Lee and you can buy a palace. That's my dig. That's my dig at Jacob, just because I know he's from Albert Lee. So is Aaron, actually. So I'm just kidding. Albert Lee is a phenomenal area. But I used to shy away from that conversation, though. I used to shy away from it because I didn't want to offend people or make them mad or have them be like, well, I don't want to hire this guy. But what I realized is it's in my best interest and in their best interest just to head that off at the very beginning and just help them get realistic. Say, hey, if 125 truly is your budget, I'm telling you right now, we're likely not going to find anything single family here in Rochester. And if we do, it's going to be highly, highly competitive. So what we can do is either A, wait a little bit longer to see if we can get you pre-approved for more down the road somehow, maybe save up some more money. Or we look at condos, townhomes, we look at areas outside Rochester, right? Or we go buy a Powerball ticket tonight, see what happens, right? But that's part of that conversation.
Never go to the JV.
But yeah, there we go. Okay, that's also a good segue. It's a good time in the consultation for them to stop, because they're probably feeling like what you're feeling like right now, which is just being talked at for too long. So if I stop there and let them talk, then it just kind of helps mix things up a little bit. They don't feel like they just, you know, got talked to for 30, 45 minutes straight. So now I say, great, once we found the home that you liked, you know, at this point in time, we've looked at homes online, we've seen them, we've taken a look at them, and now we found one that you like, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to confirm, is the title clear? Are there any liens on the property? What are the boundaries? Are there any assessments, pending assessments? Are there association dues or bylaws, things that we need to be aware of? If it's a condo or a townhome, are there association dues? What does that cover? What do they not cover? Can we get a copy? Are pets allowed? Are the units able to be rented? What kind of parking situation do we have? What I'm trying to do right here is help them realize why they need to hire an agent. Because when you start asking questions like, are there any liens on the property? Are there any assessments or pending assessments? What do you think the general consumer is thinking right now?
How am I gonna know that?
What does that even mean? Oh my God, I probably want somebody that's gonna do that for me, to check into it for me, right? So that's kind of a little bit of what this slide is designed to do. And I also want them to kind of hear some of these terms, so that if down the road we find out there's a pending assessment, I can say, so Jacob, do you remember during our consultation where I said we're gonna check for things like pending assessments? Well, believe it or not, this property has one, and this is what it means, right? This consultation, one of the things I love about it the most is it allows me to go back and say, Debbie, remember when we talked about whatever? Whether or not they remember, that's fine. But the fact that I can say we've already kind of covered it once, or hey, we talked about this, sometimes like, yeah, I remember that you said that, you know, great. You know, I prepared them for it. One thing I should say, I'm going to back up really quick, sorry to go out of order, is there's one other caveat or expectation setter that I do at this period of time right here is addressing other websites, right? Because when I tell them that we're going to take all this criteria entered into our website, they're going to get automatically alerted immediately anytime a property comes on the market that matches their criteria, because the advantage of our website is it pulls directly from the MLS, which makes it the most accurate and the most timely. I focus on those two words. When you're on our website, which pulls directly from the MLS, it means it's the most accurate and the most timely information. Now here's the deal, Jacob. It's okay if you want to cheat on me. It's fine if you're already using Zillow. That's okay. I get it. Maybe it's more user friendly. You can use other websites like Zillow or Realtor.com if you want to. Just do me a favor. If you're on those websites and you're seeing some inconsistency in what that website is saying versus ours in terms of a particular property, that's fine. Just call me or email me. Let us know. We'll look up that property in our system to verify its actual status. Because sometimes, because those websites aren't as accurate or timely, the information is a little bit less reliable. What did I do right there in that conversation? Right, and what I'm doing is I'm heading off a potential issue down the road. Because here's the deal, if we're honest with each other as agents, we know they're gonna use whatever website they wanna use. There's gonna be a combination of websites. It might even be Coldwell Banker and Ori Edina's website. That's fine, I don't care what site you're using.
Everyone uses Edina's.
Yeah, Edina Realty's website gets used a lot.
I don't know why.
Because they spend a lot of money on it. And that's fine. I would love for them to keep spending money.
Pull up an address that's listed, like someone drives by for sales and you pull up the address, the very first thing is gonna be an ad from Edina Realty. And their site is, I mean, I've used it, it's super easy. It's probably the easiest home
It's the
search
easiest.
thing out there, yeah.
The Keller one doesn't update right away either. It's not,
You know,
So,
when I have clients who get updated by
Sold.
Zillow before the Keller,
Yeah.
before I even get a flex notice.
before you get the flex notice?
Yep.
yeah,
Seriously,
I find that
I
hard
have
to
it in
believe,
there
but it's
immediately and Zillow will get it.
How many of you experienced Zillow being wrong with information?
Oh,
before?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
all the time.
Yeah, there you go. So, depending upon what website they're using, that's fine. Most commonly happens to be Zillow, right? I just let them know, hey, here's the deal. If you find one on another website, that's cool. Just let me know. I'll look it up.
just
right?
call me.
Very easy to do. And when you give them permission to do that, they will, right? But the other thing I found is if you're sending them notifications, whether it's via Flex or your own website, they will ultimately end up using that typically, because that's just where it's coming from anyway. But that has helped me in the past, because here in the land of Minnesota, people won't automatically just call you and say, Zach, I'm finding stuff on other websites not on yours, right? They just all of a sudden start assuming that the worst for some reason. Well, I don't. Zach must not be searching for me because I'm finding this stuff on other websites and he's not sending me these properties, so I don't know what's going on there, right? Or this is what happens. Well, I'm seeing this website, I'm seeing this property on another website, but whenever I call you about it, you tell me it's not available. So are we missing out on these? No, it's that home sold 2 years ago. It's not even available anymore, right? So just help them realize that they should just call you or email you when those sort of discrepancies come up. Did I see a hand up over here?
Yeah. What were those two words again they used?
The most accurate, most timely. Because you pull it straight from the MLS. Or if you're sending them directly from the MLS, then you're definitely the most accurate, most timely. I don't do that anymore. I used to send them straight from Northstar, which would be our equivalent to Flex MLS. You should just go straight from there. Then I thought to myself, why don't I just do it from my own website so I can have that traffic on my website versus the MLS's website. But they're right, there is a little bit of a time lag there. It's usually maybe a couple of hours. So if you want to get really complicated, what we'll do sometimes is we'll put ourselves on an alert from Northstar, but have them on one from our website. Because if something comes up immediately and we see it, we'll call them and let them know because we might be in our website too. Okay, so now I talk about the offer negotiations phase. So once you found a home that you like, we come right back here to the office, we sit down, especially for the first time that you're doing an offer, and we'll do a purchase agreement together. Now, the reason I say it that way is because when the first time we do a PA, we like to do it in person with them, right? To go through all the different intricacies of the purchase agreement. But after that, we're not gonna do it in person anymore. It's just not necessary. We've gone through it once, now we can just have our conversation, we can prep the documents electronically and have you sign them digitally, right? The first time we do like to do it in person. Now, are there instances in which we won't? Absolutely. If it's a very hot property, then we're just gonna knock it out, right? But when we do it in person, people just have the ability to ask more questions, and it's just better to explain, okay? So we'll come right back here to the office, we'll put together an offer, and we'll submit it to the sellers. And the sellers might decide to counter your offer, you might decide to counter that. We can go back and forth as many times as it takes to either A, reach an agreement, or B, decide to go our separate ways, okay? There's earnest money involved. I explained what earnest money is, how they have to have that money on hand at the time of their offer being accepted, the fact that it's going to the listing brokerage, right? I talk about repairs and say, here's the deal. Unless the home is in significant disrepair, we're not going to ask them to make any repairs at the time of the offer. We're just going to have the fact that those repairs need to be made reflected in our offer price. If during the home inspection we identify some certain repairs that we want to ask for, we can do that at that point in time. Again, I talk about appliances, furniture. I talk about extras. Hey, do we want that swing set or above ground pool removed before closing? Do we want to ensure that it stays there? Those are things we're going to have to iron out. We'll talk about close date. I'll let them know typically the soonest you can close on a property is about 45 days from writing that purchase agreement, right? In some instances, you might be able to do it a little bit sooner, but just plan for at least 45 days to be able to close on that property. That's an expectation setting thing right there from the get-go. And then is the offer going to be contingent? Well, I can tell you right now, yes, it's more than likely going to be contingent upon financing. It's very likely going to be contingent upon a home inspection. At least that's what we'll recommend. Now, I'm not even going to go into some of the multiple offer stuff during the consultation. I only do that if they find themselves in a multiple offer situation. So I'll talk about that later, but that could impact whether or not it's contingent upon inspection. I never recommend that they make an offer that's not contingent upon inspection, but I will educate them about the benefits of doing so from the perspective of the seller. But ultimately, it's their call to make. And if someone chooses not to have one, we're going to have them sign something that says not only do we educate you about home inspections, we encourage you to have one, and and despite that, you're still choosing not to do it. Right? It's just a cover your butt type of thing. Questions on this slide? Okay.
What do you do when they really approve for like 100,000 and they see this $1 million house coming up? Hey, we go look at it. It'd be fun to see that kind of a big house.
So a couple things, Aaron. I would check to see if there are any open houses scheduled for that property, and say, hey, the home actually has an open coming up this weekend. Feel free to check it out. Let me know if you plan to go. Reach out to that agent. Let me know. That's pretty much what I would do. Otherwise, if they're not qualified for it, especially if it's that, I mean, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
I get you having fun with it. But I would just tell them, hey, it's well outside your budget. It's just not even going to be worth it. Look at it online. But there's one person in particular that I really struggled with. It was at a point in my career where I was implementing this stuff, and she was a friend of mine, his wife, an Army buddy. I didn't know her well, but I knew her well enough, and she kept wanting to go see properties all the time, but she wasn't pre-approved yet. She had a pre-qualification from USAA, which I knew was useless, and she kept wanting me to go look at properties with her. And I finally had to say, Mandy, we're not going to see homes until you get pre-approved. And then what do you think she did? She got pre-approved, right? That's the other reason why I tie pre-approval to showings, because that's what buyers they want to go out and see homes. So if I tell you in a nice way, Debbie, the one thing you have to do to go look at homes is get pre-approved. All of a sudden, they're like, we better get this pre-approval knocked out, right? Because we're going to go see homes.
I have some friends that say they're in the market, but they haven't been pre-approved yet. I said, when are you going to do that? Oh, when do we need to? And they won't come in for buyer education at all. Like, oh, we bought 2 houses. We don't need that.
They're not motivated.
Yeah, they're not motivated.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to go about that. Do I pull them up and say, hey, I'm not working with you, and out of fear of losing them?
I would just check it with them regularly. Megan, how good is the pre-approval, or how long is the pre-approval good for typically?
It usually says on there 30 or 90 days.
Okay.
You send them properties?
I'm doing that on Flex, yeah.
That's what I would do, Aaron, and afterward we can visit about them too, but I would stay in touch and kind of gauge motivation. I always ask timeline questions. Sometimes when they can't give me a straight answer, I'll do what I did to Nick, and I'll say, well, if all the stars aligned perfectly and magically, when would you like to be in your home? Because people can usually come up with that answer. Well, ideally, I'd love to be in by this date. Okay, great. So that's what I'm going to kind of base my thought process Okay, if your offer is accepted, and I've been meaning to change the order of these two, the inspection should be first. When your offer is accepted, then we move right to the inspection phase, right? I talk about the inspection, the things that we're looking for, what's the condition of the property, negotiate who will pay for repairs, or if we're just gonna do a price reduction in exchange for them. I tell people to pay close attention to roof ceilings, foundations. These are all things that we point out to and look at during the showing with them as well. I tell them, here's the deal, your inspection, it's really kind of your last chance to just completely walk away and get your earnest money refunded with no major issues, right? So it's your last chance to do that. Then I talk about how once we move past the inspection phase, that's when we initiate their lender to go ahead and order the appraisal, right? And I talk to them about appraisal and kind of the process behind that. If your offer is declined, not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. A, we can continue searching, get right back out there and find an even better home. Or number two, maybe we re-offer either immediately or a little bit later to see if we can still come to an agreement. Maybe we increase our offer to show that we're actually serious, right? So I always let people know if it's an offer is declined or not accepted, it's not the end of the world. We just need to get right back out there and keep moving because it's super discouraging, especially in this market when buyers are making offer after offer after offer and not winning, right? All of a sudden you can't help them, or you can't help blame them for this. Just want to throw up your hand and say, well, we're just done. We're not going to do it anymore. We're going to take a break. That's fine. You can do that. But what I know is prices and interest rates are going to go up in the meantime. So what I help them do is stay positive and say, hey, that's okay. Everything happens for a reason. It means there's an even better house out there for you. Let's get right back out tomorrow and see some more homes, right? Because we will find one. Lastly, I talk about the closing phase. So at closing, usually it's at a place just like this, either it's at our office or at the closing company's office. The financing goes through successfully, which means the seller gets paid, the title is clear, the deed officially transfers to you, your mortgage payments begin shortly thereafter. You take possession, can move into the home immediately after closing. You get the keys right then and there, that kind of thing. Then I talk about this because I got burned on a transaction on this once. And I say, I want to have a quick conversation with you about move-in expectations. First off, your idea of clean might be very different from the current homeowner's idea of clean or definition of clean, right? If you're coming from a rental, in order to get your security deposit back, what do you have to do? You basically have to sterilize the place, right? Have some fun with it. You gotta scrub it head to toe, blah, blah, blah. That's not the same threshold when you're buying a home, right? So honestly, we're just thankful if everybody gets everything out of the home on time for closing and it's in good shape or relatively clean. That's not to say I'm gonna let you close on a home that's trashed. We will have a final walkthrough. We'll make sure the home is in good condition before you buy it. But just know you're gonna wanna plan some time, either the first half day or a full day to clean the home to your standard, right? Vacuum, maybe even shampoo, carpets, and then really where you're gonna wanna spend some of your time is the bathrooms and in the kitchen. Clean the stove, the fridge, the microwave to your standard, clean the bathrooms to your standard. This is a great job for friends or family if they want to help you move, and not everybody has a job, so we can do some of the cleaning for you. But do yourself a favor if you'd like to plan a half day or a full day to really clean the home to your standard. Ever since I've been saying that, I haven't had any issues, right? I think because now people understand when I move it. The other thing I say is why it says new versus previously owned. I say you would agree with me that a home that's brand new is obviously going to be in a lot different condition than a home that's been lived in, right? They say, yeah. I say, okay. So the home that's been previously lived in, you might need to clean it up to your standard to get it better, to what you maybe expect when you walk into, right? Does that make sense? Okay. How many of you guys have been burned on that or had to deal with that in the past? Yeah. So if you do something like this, it can certainly help with it, right? But if the seller's just in the place trash still, that's when you gotta get crazy. You gotta go into realtor mode and be like, this is unacceptable, and figure stuff out. Our final walkthrough.
It was me.
It was your sellers?
Yeah, it was me, the seller. We moved all the furniture out and I moved the kids' bedroom stuff out the day we were leaving. And I had this big, tall, wardrobe dresser, and I moved it and there was a hole in the wall that I'd completely forgotten about that my kid did, and then started picking at the sheetrock paper, and so he had peeled the paper this way when he was little.
Yeah.
And then I put that in front of it. I totally forgot it was there. So when I do that, I say to people, sometimes there will be a big stain under the couch that we didn't see that the people even forgot about, or I give them that example. I'm like, I literally did not remember it was there, and I had no time to tape and mud. Right. And I thought for sure I was going to get a call from the other agent going, hey, They never called me, they never said anything, but I was freaking out all day.
That's okay. But that's just a realistic thing. I tell them, I say, sometimes it's a family of 6, and they've got 2 dogs, or just happy that they got moved out in time, right? But I always reiterate that by saying, I'm not gonna let you buy a home that's trash. We're gonna have a final walkthrough, make sure you're comfortable with the conditions, but do plan to do some cleaning initially. Yeah, absolutely. And I had that's all I'll say about that. Okay, so I talked a little bit about current market conditions. Hey, we're not in a distressed market anymore. The market's recovered. It's very competitive, things like that. I touch on more responsible lending because sometimes people get weirded out when the lender starts asking for social security numbers, tax returns, all that fun stuff. I say, there's more responsible lending these days. They're doing their due diligence when they ask for these things. It's not because they're trying to steal your identity, right? It's just part of the process nowadays. So every once in a while you get that weird conspiracy theorist person out there who's like, I'm not telling the government anything. Well, hang on, that's just part of the process. Right? Historically low interest
Bring
rates.
cash.
Right. Purchasing power. So these 2 slides, Carly added since she's taken over the bar council. I don't talk about them. So take them for what it's worth. It has to do with, it shows them, hey, as interest rates go up, your purchase power affordability goes down, right? That's the same thing here. And then this is a slide that talks about the people who are on the team. So what Carly does is, obviously my name is still associated with the team, so she has to touch on who I am. But then she talks about Cole and Kelly and how our clients might be interacting with them as well. And she really clearly defines Kelly's role as an administrative person and all that fun stuff. And actually, honestly, especially when the home goes under contract, they end up talking and spending way more time with her than they do either Cole or Carly, right? And before they even actually go out to start seeing properties, they actually spend a lot of time talking with her too, because she's the one that does all the check-ins. So it's kind of funny that a lot of people feel attached or have a pretty good relationship with her by the time they're all said and done, but even sometimes us. And then the only time they interact with me is when Kelly posts on my Facebook page congratulating them, which has to be weird sometimes. Like, I never even met this guy. He's congratulating me on Facebook, but it seems to work. But we like to introduce. Now, your slide could be people at the office, right? If you want to beef it up, you don't have to. But you can certainly have people like Nikki. You can have your lender on there. You can have Amanda from Title on there and say, hey, these are all the key people that are going to be a part of the transaction and who you can expect to be hearing from. Okay, questions, etc. Now, at this point in time is when I transition to the paperwork. Because a lot of times the big sticking point is, okay, we just had a great consultation. We're putting out some good vibes. It seems like they want to work with me. But how do I now cross that bridge from this is a complete stranger who I've just visited with for 30 minutes or 20 minutes? How do I now get them to agree to sign a contract with me? That's
Have you already gone through? Oh God, I just totally lost our agency.
That's what's coming up next.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to give you my one last referral script that I used in the consultation. So at some point in the consultation, I start talking about customer service, and I say, our goal at Team Lucky Duck is to provide you with such unbelievable customer service, and even before you close on your new home, you're already referring us to your friends and family. It's a little bit of an expectation setter, and I'm not directly asking them for a referral. It's just saying, hey, we're going to do such a great job for you that even before we're done, you're going to start sending us referrals, right? Which has happened before, which is unbelievable. Clients already sending you more business before you finish their business. It's amazing, right? So make that part of your script and embed that into some of your presentation. My goal is to provide you with such phenomenal service that even before you're done with this transaction, before you're in your new home, you're already referring us to friends and family. I've heard other people get even more specific, like, yeah, one of our goals is that by the time we're done helping you, that you've already referred us to 2 people. I'm not that forward. That's pretty darn forward. But thank you. So when this slides up questions, I'm hunting for one question in particular. What do you think that question is?
Are you ready to work with them?
I like that one.
Are you working with an agent?
I like that one too, but that's not quite what I'm looking for yet. Put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. What might the consumer be thinking by the end of this presentation? Say again?
Do I have to decide something?
How much? Zach, that's all good. That all sounds great. How much? What does it cost to work with you? How much is it going to cost me? Right? So if they ask that question, I say, hey, I'm happy to tell you, I work for you absolutely for free when I help you buy a home. And I have some paperwork that shows you exactly how that works. And that's my natural transition into paperwork. If they don't ask me that question, I say, well, Brad, one of the questions I often get is, how much do you charge? Well, I'm happy to tell you, and I use the same script, right? But so, because I can coldly introduce the paperwork, right? Or when I tee it up that way, what did I just equate the paperwork to? Free. I just equated it to free, right? So hey, here's the deal. I do all this for you for free. Let me show you how. So now all of a sudden the paperwork it's in their minds queued up as, okay, well, wait a minute, this paperwork is going to show me how this guy's going to work for me for free. I'm intrigued, right? So the first thing I go over is agency. Then I say, this is a form that the state of Minnesota requires. It's a disclosure. It's not an agreement. I have to go over it with you to show you what I owe you as a real estate professional, what kind of relationships exist in real estate transactions. I cover at a very high level. And I explained it, I have a signed date, whatever, explain to them the gist of the form, then I'll show you where I spend the majority of my time, which is not much. Have an initial there, but here's where I spend my time. And I take my pen and I mark up this area and I say, really what you have to understand is as a licensed real estate professional, I owe you a few things. I owe you loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care, and accounting. And I promise with me you get all that. I also have to make you aware of this website right here that you can check to see if there are any registered sex offenders that may live nearby any of the homes that you might be interested in.
And that's if they're registered.
If they're registered. I don't get in the weeds. I don't get in the weeds of this.
No, it's true, because they'll come back at you if they find out that somebody's there and you didn't say that.
So then I say, when you initial here, it means I made you aware of this website. And when you sign in date up here, it just means that I went over this form with you. Short and sweet. A good introductory form. Take what you got to sneak out for everybody. So then I move into the buyer representation contract. And I say, this form is the form that allows me to get to work for you. It allows me to start sending you properties, coordinating showings on your behalf, getting into properties, negotiating, all the fun stuff that I would need to help you with. And it's usually, and when we go over this, it's already filled out. Like Kelly's already prepped and filled this out. So it's kind of a little bit of, there's a little bit of an assumption, right? But they already see their name and everything on here. So where I spend my time on this form is right here. I say, we don't charge a retainer fee, not looking to become Donald Trump, especially right now. There's usually a bit of a chuckle. It used to be more funny. Now, sometimes I don't say it anymore. I get compensated, and here I put per MLS. Now, Jim is our broker here in Rochester, so you abide by what he's telling you to do if he has something he would rather have you do. But I put per MLS because here's the deal. I've seen it vary. I've seen it be 2.5, 2.7. I've seen it be 3. I've seen it be 4. It's going to vary per the MLS. And oh, by the way, when they write an offer on a specific property, what do we have to have them sign anyway? It's a compensation disclosure, which specifically states what the compensation is, right? So I put per MLS up there. Then I put 0. For here, I put 0. It's up to you. I stack this thing in their favor to make it as easy as possible for them to sign. And then I put shall. Any compensation I receive from the seller shall reduce any obligation you owe me. So I say that to him and I say, which again is nothing. You don't owe me anything. And oh, by the way, if at any point in time you become unhappy with us, you can cancel. Just call and cancel. No questions asked. We'll cancel the contract with you and we'll move on. It just makes it that much easier, right? When you check this box, it means we can help you buy a residential personal property. If you initial here, next line 65, it allows us to coordinate closing the title services with a great company on your behalf. Most people don't know title companies, so they always sign off and initial that one. Dual agency. So if you check this box right here, it says you're open to and you'll agree to considering properties that are dual agency. And here's what that really means. It means that if another agent in our Keller Williams office here has a property listed for sale and you'd like to see it and you ultimately decide to make an offer on it, well, Keller Williams would be on both sides of that transaction. That's called dual agency. This just means that you're open to those transactions at this point. If at any point in time you do make an offer on a property that is dual agency, we'll clarify that and make sure that you're comfortable with it at that time. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Is dual agency, does that apply to the other offices?
Nope. Just Keller Williams, anybody that's with Keller Williams Premier. So when you say other offices, if it's Winona or Austin, yes, dual agency.
No, I'm talking about
If
Burnsville.
it's Burnsville, no, it's not dual agency. If you're with Edina Realty, any transaction you do with an Edina agent is dual agency because they're corporately structured, they're all under one. If you're a Remax Results to Remax Advantage Plus, that is not dual agency. If you're Coldwell Banker Burnett to Coldwell Banker River Valley, that is not dual agency. That makes sense? Great question. I was very confused because I came from Edina. So the first deal I did at Keller Williams was with the Keller Williams agent, not another company, and marked dual agency, and I felt like, well, I didn't, you're with Keller Williams. So that's how I explain this. I don't let them get bent around the axle, bent around the wheel. I hate that that happens sometimes because I don't know what's going on out there that people are getting freaked out about dual agency, but they shouldn't be. When I was with my previous company, I did them all the time, right? Because anytime you do a deal with an Edina agent, it's dual. Nowadays, it's not as common, right? Because so many companies are working with each other. But anyway, that's how I explain that to them. Ask them if they have any questions. Typically they don't. And if there's ever a sticking point, I say, here's the deal. If you don't agree to dual agency, that significantly limits the amount of properties you're saying that you're interested in. Because if you're not open to dual agency, then any property that our office has listed for sale, it's no longer on the table for you. When you put it that way, I say when you open to dual agency, what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to the maximum amount of opportunities and properties. When you explain it to them that way, they realize, okay, no, I do want the maximum options available to me, right? I don't want to limit myself. Of course, with that, and I say, so this is where you sign a date. So, if you're ready to get started and start viewing homes and taking a look at properties and all that fun stuff, you sign here, and we can go ahead and get to work for you. If you phrase it that way, they usually sign, right? So sometimes they start signing right away on that first form. If they don't do that, then I go through all of them, and at the very end, I reiterate and ask the same question about having them sign, right? So let me see what other forms I have queued up. Because those are the two main ones, and then each office is going to have some of its own specific forms. Like we've got forms in Burnsville, they're similar to the ones down here in Rochester, but they're different. You guys have something similar to this, which is additional disclosures. This is what ours looks like, okay? So what I do is I talk about multiple offers. And I have to say, hey, when you initial hear it means I made you aware of the fact that sellers do not have to disclose the existence of multiple offers. Now, most oftentimes they do because it's in their best interest to do so because it drives the price up. But what you need to know, Nick, is the sellers don't have to disclose that. So that's a huge expectation setter. So I don't get the angry phone calls later where, hey, what do you mean there was another offer at play? They never let us know they have to do that. Well, no, they don't. And all of a sudden I'm playing defense. No, I told you from up front that they don't have to disclose that information. We also have the affiliated business arrangement disclosure, similar to what you guys have. I just say, hey, we just have to disclose to you. Keller Williams office has business relationships with a couple other companies. You don't have to utilize them. They're great companies. You can use whoever you'd like to. This is just signed it. You're saying made you aware of the fact that we do have some business affiliations. I mean, do you need to say more? No. The answer is no. So do yourself a favor and don't. Right? Hey, we're affiliated with some other businesses. Got any questions about that? Great, sign here. Right? Well, what does that really mean? Well, what it really? Well, I don't mean. No, don't waste your time doing that. Right? So we don't do the compensation disclosure, obviously, because I don't know what property they're doing yet. So when we make an offer, I have them do that compensation disclosure at that time. The other thing, I think we have it built into our buyer rep contract, at least nowadays. But I cover our broker admin fee in the buyer consultation, and I circle it. It's on another form I don't have included in here, but it says that the BAC in Upper Burnsville is $3.99. I circle it, and this is the verbiage I use. I say there is a fee. It's called a broker admin fee. It goes to the office, goes to Keller Williams. It does not go to me. It's used to cover the cost of reviewing the file, storing it, making sure it's compliant. It protects you and it protects me. It's not due right now. It's due at the time of closing, and quite often I'm usually able to get it covered as part of your closing costs. It's as simple as that. It's when you don't have a prepared response for it, or that you just gloss over it or never bring it up, that it becomes an issue. Doing this a long time, and I've had zero pushback on that when I phrase it that way. I mean, it's very common. What are we here in Rochester? What are we? No, I mean, what's our broker admin fee? It's $3.50, right? It's $3.50. Do you know what our competitors are?
More.
Or,
Yeah, more. Yeah, that's the right answer. They're in the fours. So,
Two or more. Two of them or more.
Two or more.
what was it at Coldwell, Aaron? Was it in the fours?
Which one, Cold Lake or Burnett?
It was, I can't remember.
The only one in the fours here, I think, is Edina.
Edina and Remax results.
I thought Remax was $3.99.
Well, that's more.
That's
Right.
four.
It is more,
Yeah.
that's why I said those two are more, but
They're more, and so is Coldwell. I'm willing to bet on that. I could be wrong.
I think they're not. They might be the same.
Okay, well, then I'll verify that. But the good news is, if anybody hems and haws, you can say, hey, compared to our major competitors, we're the most affordable when it comes to the program.
We'll say that I think Killen's the only one that pays it for veterans.
There you go. Well, yes, and if they're using a VA home loan, no matter what company with, you just can't be charged the program. But that's how I handle all that. And here's what I would tell you: systematize it. Use the scripts from the beginning to set the consultation. Have them in, go through the entire consultation like this, introduce the paperwork, and get them to sign. There are a couple of variations I get during the consultation, especially when it's a couple that are in there. Sometimes either they tell you or you can sense that they want to have a conversation with each other before they just agree to sign. Okay, so instead of in the past just saying, "Oh yeah, take some time to think about it and let me know," my aha moment was when a buddy of mine from school, Dan, said, "Hey Zach, would you mind stepping out so my wife and I can have a conversation?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be down the hall. Let me know when you guys are ready." A few minutes later, says, "Come on in," they signed. So now, when I can tell a couple is maybe kind of having that, hey, they're giving each other the eyes like I'm trying to read your mind right now, but I can't. I'll say, "Hey, would it be helpful if I step outside for just a minute? You guys can have a conversation and just let me know when you're ready." Every time that we do that, step out, they have us come back in and they sign. They just need a chance to have that quick conversation. I like doing that way better than take it with you and let us know, right? Every once in a while, we do get that person that says, "Well, I'd like to take some time to think about it or have somebody review it or whatever." We say, "That's cool, take it with you. We will follow up with you tomorrow." And we follow up tomorrow to try to get it signed almost immediately. We don't just let it hang out there. If they don't sign it and return it, it's usually a gauge of their motivation. They got real form and they realized I'm either freaked out or I'm not ready to do this. Right? That's few and far between that people don't sign on with us. That was my biggest takeaway. It was the second time I went through Bold. The first time I went through Bold, John Prescott told us about this and getting contracts signed. I think I can't remember. But the second time, Cody Gibson did, and he said, "You guys need to do a buyer consultation. And you need to have people sign the contract with you during the buyer consultation." I thought to myself, okay, Cody, that's cool for you, dude. You're a mega agent out of freaking Portland, Oregon, just crushing it in your awesome fancy suit. I'm sure that works for you, but we're in the land of Minnesota. If I just ask complete strangers to sign agreements with me, that's not going to happen. I'm going to freak them out, make them angry. They're not going to. But if you've been through Bold before, you know that every time you come each week, you get a sticker for how many contracts you got signed. So it's like, I better get these freaking contracts signed so my team doesn't think I'm terrible. That's forced me to do it. And I realized, holy crap, people will do it. It's actually really easy. I just haven't been asking them to do it before. And I'll be honest with you, at Edina Realty, they never once taught me that. This isn't a dig on Edina. It's probably a dig on me for just not learning it. They never taught me how that process is supposed to work. And to be honest, I'm sure I was doing buyer agencies. I don't know if I did or not. If I did, it was at the time of the purchase agreement. But we were writing an offer, and that's when I was introducing all this buyer representation contracts, which makes no sense because I've been representing them for however long, just not formally within the contract. It wasn't protecting me really, formalizing the relationship. So that was a huge aha for me to know this is how you should be doing it. And then, oh, by the way, when you do it this way, it's actually very powerful and it actually brings a lot of good stuff to your business. I know it can be daunting, but do it. And the good news for you as an agent is you've got a little bit of that commitment and loyalty right out of the gate versus just like, well, we're doing showings. Hopefully these guys will actually work with me.
More daunting to be an unpaid taxi driver.
Yeah.
And never be paid.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so hit me with your questions. Good ones, tough ones, push back on some stuff. If you're like, hey, is that really realistic or reasonable? I do it this way. What are your thoughts on this? Because if you hone this process right here, you become deadly at it. This thing will blow up your business. I was reviewing, Carly had her coaching call yesterday, and each week they send out the numbers for our team, where we are. And I looked at our buyer contracts, the number signed, just sitting there. It was like 16 buyer contracts. They're just sitting there signed. People, they're somewhere in the process of either getting pre-approved or they're a couple months out or something. And I looked at that and I'm like, never in my life would our business look like this if I hadn't gone through that program and systematized this and implement it into our business. We'd have no idea. But the fact that I could look at it, we're through Q1. I can see we've already got about 4 million in business, either closed or pending. And we've got 16 buyer contracts signed. And we've got this many listings getting ready to come on. That's you running your business. It's not your business running you. And it puts you in a great, it just makes you feel better because you're like, okay, I know where we're going and I know where we need to do, and what changes we need to do. It's not a braggadocious statement. It's a statement saying that I didn't used to do it that way, and what I've learned has got me to here. I'm just trying to help you guys learn the same stuff if you desire to do the same thing in your business. Because it's an awesome, awesome thing. Okay, questions?
I'll just let you know, Jennifer said this was the best, thank you.
She's the bomb. Did she get it working again?
Mhm.
Okay. Use your hair, Jennifer.
As soon as you did that, whatever you did.
Whatever I did?
Yeah.
I did it on purpose, Debbie. I knew exactly what I was doing.
Whatever you did, it worked.
Okay, so really no questions. Is anybody already doing this consultation process?
I do one.
Okay.
I think I get too detailed in mine.
I would say if I were to give agents in general any one critique, it's probably that you're diving too into the weeds
Yeah.
on some stuff.
I think I have.
You want to keep it fun, exciting. You want to demonstrate that value and give those pieces of education, but not you don't want to overwhelm people or just like have them think like, oh my God, we're getting bored, right? And I always I've spent a lot of time with Aaron on buyer consultation stuff and helping him. And one of the things that I share with Aaron is we have to remember that when we're communicating this, we're communicating it from our mind, which lives and breathes this every day, to the mind of the general consumer, who we have to say, how do we speak layman's terms to them when it comes to the real estate transactions, right? How do I, and what else this is gonna be hard putting you on the spot, but I tell you, Aaron, sometimes when you go through a slide or you share information, give the buyer the what. Say, I'll just give the answer. Give them the so what, or tell them why it's important to them. Right? Because oftentimes we'll go through that information, but then we never close a loop for them. So we're gonna do this, this, and this, and here's why it matters to you. Or here's the so what, or here's the benefit to you because of that. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's when agents are talking about themselves a little bit. Well, I do this, 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 and this. Okay. Well, what's the so what behind it? So Megan could say, and for X amount of years, I was a lender, and this, this, and this, and this, it just moves on. For this period of time in my life, I was a lender, which means when it comes to pre-approval and financing and all that, you've got somebody who knows the industry in and out and can help you with that. That's a strength of mine. That's the so what, right? One thing that I tell them to do, and part of that financing area is you want to constantly be in touch with your lender about interest rates and get their opinion as to whether or not you should lock in or ride it out. That's not a call I like to make, obviously, so I just direct them to the lender. I say, you should be asking your lender that question, etc. So you all have marketable skills outside of real estate that you can bring to bear and make a so what in your PowerPoint about, right? Anything else? Anybody else use this approach right now? So some think are maybe getting a little bit too detailed. Anybody still not asking for people to sign for whatever reason? It's okay. It's not a bad thing. Everybody's asking for folks to sign.
Ever since I started asking people to sign, I have a person say, no, I'm not going to sign right now.
But how'd you handle it? Did you slap them or
well, first, when we're agency, it's not a contract, it says right here, and you sign this with this, sign this, but here's the contracts, we need to formalize a relationship.
Right, okay, so that's good, and some people just aren't gonna do it, but what I would say is circle back to what's the why behind it, because when you say just to formalize a relationship with, am I getting married again? That's great, right? So here's the deal, if we do this, when you sign here, it allows me to get to work for you, start sending you properties, get you into homes, working on your behalf, all the good things that the contract brings with it. Not, hey, this means you're committed to me, this means you can't use anybody else, this means you're locked in.
You use that easy out clause there and most people sign.
The fact that they can cancel anything.
Yeah. And then you also just inform them that that works both ways.
And see, I will the contract with them, we said, boom, 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 I work for you for free, everything here, so let's start filling it out. Oh, we're gonna slow down a little bit
Yeah,
here.
that's okay, that is what it is, you're gonna have that every once in a while. The question is, what's your follow-up been like since that meeting?
Well, it's been good, because I know they wanna buy the house, but they're just trying to get pre-approved and financing.
These are those guys are telling me about. That is what it is.
I mean, I'm still texting, calling, whatever.
Yeah, if nobody else has anything, thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Again, if you want a copy of it, email me or email Kelly, we'll give you a copy.
Perfect,
We'll
thank you.
even give you a copy of, our client checklist when they check in. We give them a whole buying guide, she'll give you a copy of that, all that fun stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Should I take